Bitcoin continues to decline. It continues to put in new lows. And it's pretty easy to say right now that 74K has been lost. We've seen hours and hours and hours of trading below $74,000 on Bitcoin. And I think it's safe to say that we are, in fact, going lower. If you take a look at Polymarket, it gives Bitcoin an 80% chance of dropping below $70,000 this year. Actually, no, this is in February. This year, it's even higher. But an 80% chance of dropping below $70,000 this month. Forget this year. We're talking this month on this particular Polymarket, prediction market, which we can see here. So there is a solid chance Bitcoin is going to continue lower. And in today's live stream, we're going to talk about which levels it could go to, which levels realistically we could find a bottom. And we're going to focus a bit on altcoins as well and try and find potential bottoms for altcoins, because I've got some very interesting facts to bring to you regarding the relationship between altcoins and Bitcoin when it comes to forming a bear market low. Before we get into it, please make sure to leave a like on the stream. Subscribe as well if you're new. Share the live stream with anyone who could benefit from it. And if you're watching on X, make sure to repost the live stream so more people can view it and more people can be enlightened as to what is happening right now. I see an awful lot of YouTubers and mainstream spokespersons, regarding crypto, saying that we're still in a bull run, saying that we're not in a 4-year cycle anymore, it's a 5-year cycle, and loads of hopium and copium as per usual. And it's quite worrying, actually, because they're basically deceiving the masses because they know that they won't get views if they're pessimistic. They have to be optimistic in order to get views on their YouTube channels. Because if they go doom and gloom, no one listens, right? My views have dropped down because I'm more bearish. But the reality is, I would rather be honest than just lie to you guys and keep constantly saying everything's fine, even though everyone's portfolios are going absolutely to dust. Now, we've managed to protect loads of people's portfolios by selling Bitcoin at the 50-week, by selling Bitcoin and altcoins at the 50-week moving average. We were obviously taking profits on the way up, but that was the line in the sand where we sold everything. And fortunately, we're able to buy every altcoin we sold pretty much and get double as much of it now, 2x as much as what we could have previously bought. So you get a lot more bang for your buck if you're re-entering the altcoin market now with the stables, which you obviously acquired after selling your alts. But I don't personally believe the bottom is in just yet. I still think we're going lower, but we're getting close. We're getting close to a point where I'm going to start buying. We're not necessarily close to a point where I'm comfortable enough to call a bottom, but we're getting close to a point where I'm going to start DCAing back into the market. And it's going to be very nice to be buying altcoins at half price, sometimes even 60 or 70% off what I was obviously holding them at when I sold them. So let's take a look at Bitcoin here. You can see we have these macro fibs on, and there's a major fib level coming up here at $71,000 roughly. That is a point where if we lose that fib, I believe that the golden pocket is almost a guarantee. And the golden pocket currently stands between 58K and 53K. That for me is the most likely bottoming out point for Bitcoin, not only because of the golden pocket, but also because of the extremely important moving average that we look at every single day on this channel, which is the 200-week moving average, which is hovering around that level. Now, obviously, it's going to keep creeping up, so maybe it's a bit above it by the time we get there. But the reality is we've got an awful lot of confluence pointing to this golden pocket region on Bitcoin as a potential low. Not only have you got a macro golden pocket, you've also got the 200-week moving average there currently, and you have an awful lot of trading volume from that sideways year, essentially, that we had in 2024, where Bitcoin went sideways for 7 or 8 months. You've got loads of volume all around that level that was built up from that whole entire year almost of sideways price action. So I think that there's a lot lining up for a potential bottom somewhere in that golden pocket region. But that doesn't mean I'm going to wait for that point before I start buying, because I'm not that bothered about timing the absolute bottom. I don't want to be trying so hard to time the exact bottom and then I miss it and then the train leaves the station and I'm left behind waiting. I don't want that to happen. And I hear an awful lot of people out there calling for $40,000, $30,000, $20,000. And by all means, those prices could get hit, especially if the S&P 500 enters a bear market. But I wouldn't be waiting for those prices before buying. Also, the 30K target reminds me a lot of when people were calling for 10K back when Bitcoin was at 15K, right? There's always going to be a huge sum of people calling for lower. There's always going to be loads of people calling for lower. Even when the bottom is getting put in, a lot of people will be too scared to buy. I was taking a look at Casper earlier, and it has this beautiful descending wedge that it's in. And I was talking to Cryptex, who's my technical analyst within my group. And I was essentially saying that Casper remains a high quality layer one. But the problem is, no one's going to buy it until it finally breaks out. Everyone's too scared to be buying Casper here. They're going to wait for a breakout move. And it's the same with Bitcoin. It's the same with all altcoins. When the actual bottom is in, 99% of people will be too scared. They'll be in a deep state of fear to actually buy because of the indoctrination of all the YouTubers, because of the PTSD people have of trying to time the bottom all the other times and it's gone wrong. People are just going to be in a crippling state of fear. It's going to be too difficult for them to buy. They're going to bottle it, essentially. The same goes with Bitcoin and with the altcoins. And people constantly keep lowering the target. The same way when you're going up, everyone keeps moving the goalpost forward. They keep saying it's going to continue. It's going to continue. The bull run's going to continue. We're going to go higher. We're going to go higher. The same way people do that, they do the same in a bear market. They keep lowering the target. Initially, they say, oh, my target's 60K to buy in. And then 60K actually gets hit on Bitcoin and they don't buy. The same thing happens in a bull run. People said, how many people, guys, let me know, were you one of them? How many people said they were going to start selling Bitcoin once it hits 100K? How many people said that back down here? Once it hits 100K, I'm going to be selling. That's what they all said. How many of them actually started selling? Very, very few, because people don't have the guts to actually do it. People are just weak-minded. That's the reality. Okay, and when I was calling the top up here at 126, people were calling me an idiot. People were laughing. People were mocking because they were in disbelief. Their minds couldn't comprehend the fact that that could have been the top because they were deluded. 99% of people are delusional in crypto. 99% of people are delusional in the world, actually. There's an awful lot of idiots in the world. And when you're a relatively smart individual, it's frustrating how all the masses are essentially conned in loads of aspects of life. But let's just focus on crypto here. When the bottom is in, people are too scared to buy. I remember because when Bitcoin was at $15,000 and $16,000, I was actually at a restaurant in the UK. And I was talking to the waiter and he was asking me what I do. And I told him I'm a crypto investor. And he said, Bitcoin, isn't that dead? Isn't that a scam? I told him, no, Bitcoin's not a scam. It's not dead. Now is actually the time to buy. And he was just like laughing at me, taking me not seriously. He wasn't taking me serious. And that week was actually the bottom for Bitcoin. That week. I kid you not. That week was the bottom for Bitcoin. He was laughing. He had this kind of complex going on where he thought he was superior. And I was telling the guy, this is the bottom for Bitcoin, most likely. And he was just absolutely in denial, thought it was going to keep going lower, thought it was a scam. But in a sense, I don't blame the guy. That's the majority of people. And everyone says they'll buy the bottom, but when we actually get close to it, they can't handle it. That fear of it going lower plagues the mind. So what I'm saying is, although I believe the bottom will probably be around that golden pocket, in that range, I'm going to start buying beforehand just to get my feet wet. Okay, just to get the ball rolling. Just to get my foot in the door. There's loads of different sayings I could use. But just to start slowly DCAing in, I'm going to start a little bit earlier than then. And it's crazy to think how fast we've dropped here. We were at 126K just a few months ago when I was calling the top on BTC. And now we're in the low 70s. The 60s could come very, very soon. Like I said, Polymarket is currently predicting an 80% chance of Bitcoin entering the 60s this month. Not this year, this month in February. So the likelihood is Bitcoin's going to be in the 60s very, very soon. And that's where I start to consider slowly entering into the market again. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm not going to call the bottom in the 60s when I start buying because, you know, truthfully, it's very difficult to time the bottom. Maybe I did kind of just get lucky last cycle, and maybe this time I'm a little bit off. Maybe the bottom's actually 39K and I start buying at 65K. But either way, I'm going to be dollar cost averaging down, you know, at sensible prices, in my opinion. The thing that wasn't sensible was to be averaging in once we lost the 50-week moving average, because at that point, it was very clear to me and most intelligent people that Bitcoin was clearly entering some form of a macro downtrend. The moment we lost the 50-week moving average, there's no sense in buying, in DCAing around those levels. There's no sense in that because we're clearly in a downtrend. Now we've come significantly below it. We're starting to get a bit closer to the 200-week. You can start to think about positioning your stable coins on exchanges, getting ready to start thinking about buying. Like I said, I'm not buying just yet, but I'm getting close. And the moment I buy, I'll be telling the VIP members over in the Discord, I'll be posting out alerts, telling them the percentage of my portfolio that's going into certain coins. And I can see someone in the chat ask me if there's a discount code available for the VIP. And there is, if you use the code bear market at checkout. You save yourself 35% off, I believe it is. That's a very reasonable discount for a group that is full of value. Okay, I was telling these guys at 126K that I believe that was the top. And I was telling people that the nail in the coffin was when we lost the 50-week moving average, and that's when I got out of everything. And I sold everything. I sent out a sell alert to the members and protected everyone's spot portfolios. So yeah, there is a discount. Use the code bear market at checkout. Now, what I want to talk about here is something which is very interesting. And I don't hear many people talking about this, both on YouTube, on X, and in my Discord group, and just everywhere in general. I don't hear many people talking about this. And what I'm referring to is the fact that certain altcoins bottomed out earlier than Bitcoin. And no, I'm not just talking about random altcoins that were tiny in value. scam coins. No, I'm talking about Ethereum and I'm talking about BNB. They bottomed out months before Bitcoin in the last bear market. All right. When did Bitcoin bottom out in 2022? Bitcoin bottomed out in November of 2022. When did Ethereum bottom out in 2022? Ethereum actually bottomed out in June. Not a month before, but multiple months before Bitcoin bottomed out. When did BNB bottom out? BNB bottomed out also in June. Like I said, not a month before Bitcoin, but multiple months prior to Bitcoin bottoming out. Now, I'm sure there's other examples, but these are two very prominent examples of altcoins which actually formed a bottom on a capitulation wick before Bitcoin did. Now, after that bottom was formed, it wasn't like it was just up only from there. There was very much a big range, and it took a while before they got back into their uptrends. I think something very, very similar might happen again with a lot of the altcoins. I think we're very close to some form of capitulation wick that's going to bring everything down another 20 or 30%. And I think there's a solid chance that some blue chip altcoins will form bottoms on that capitulation wick. Now, I can't give you a time on it, but looking at Polymarket and seeing that it's suggesting sub 70K Bitcoin this month, we might just be weeks away from that very capitulation wick I'm talking about. And maybe some of these altcoins are actually closer to June 2022 than we think. Now, of course, a lot of alts continued lower in 2022, and they formed bottoms when Bitcoin did. But I'm giving you two very prominent altcoins, two of the biggest altcoins. In fact, they might be the two biggest altcoins. Let me just double check. Yeah, they are. So we're not talking about shitcoins here. We're talking about the two biggest altcoins. They both formed bottoms multiple months before Bitcoin did. And many people don't know about this. Let me know in the chat. Did you know about this already? Or have I just enlightened you? Because I'm sure people who are around in the 2022 bear market, you would have known about this. But if you weren't around then, you may not know. Coin Operated said, let's go. Smash up the likes on your way in. Show some love, chat. Yeah, absolutely. Show some love. Hit the likes. Helps out a ton. So for me, I actually think we might be closer to forming a bottom on some alts than what many people think, both in time and in terms of price. Because many alts have been in major downtrends now for years. I mean, if you look at Ethereum, it didn't really even get above its previous high. Now, you can't really call this a downtrend, but it's certainly not some form of macro uptrend when you didn't even surpass 2021 levels. You know, if you look at Casper, for example, this has been in a bear market since the middle of 2024. So I do genuinely think that some of these alts might just be one more move down before they find bottoms. Not all alts, but some of them. Some of them will form premature bottoms. Others will bottom later on. But we are getting close now to me buying back into this market. Just being open and transparent about that. While everyone's been bag holding and now they're starting to capitulate, I'm getting ready to buy. And I feel like a capitulation move is getting close. You know, one of these kind of wicks that you have, capitulation wick, kind of like that. A Luna, an FTX, one of these things. I just get that feeling that it's close. And I know that's not good analysis, but usually when you have these big downtrend moves, it's followed by a capitulation event. We haven't actually had that capitulation event just yet. This big move down on Bitcoin, you can't really pinpoint what's caused it. Other than the 4-year cycle, which in and of itself isn't an actual reason, really, right? Other than it's just a trend, it's just a theory. There's no direct catalyst that you can point to and say, that's what caused this massive downtrend. There's no Luna crash. There's no FTX crash. Maybe you could say the 1010 event and its consequences. Maybe you could say that, but it's not as obvious, right? Usually there's a very obvious direct event that you can point to that caused the crash, whether it's COVID, whether it's Luna crashing, whatever it is, a stable coin collapse. There's usually a clear event that causes the collapse. We haven't had that yet. And I believe some form of event is around the corner. I can't tell you what it is. I'm not some form of time traveler. But usually when you have these downtrends, it's followed by a capitulation wick. We haven't had that just yet. So once that happens, that's where I'm really going to start deploying. Like I said, I think it might happen this month, the way things are looking. Some of these alts, I can't ignore the way they look. Especially high quality alts like Casper. I mean, look at that. Maybe it's one wick away from a bottom. Maybe we have a wick down that catches everyone off guard to 2 cents, and then we come back up and it starts rallying again. I don't know. When you take a look at Solana, all right, Solana is getting absolutely crushed right now. Solana is getting destroyed. Just lost the golden pocket. It's probably coming down to $70 or $69 to be precise. Okay, I think my what's it called? My keyboard, not my keyboard, my mouse has just officially died. So I can't move the mouse, the cursor, which is annoying. Can I do it like this? Okay, I'm gonna have to sort that out. Casper is going another 80% down, says Charles. I don't know if it is. You know, it's already down like 80%. It could go down another 80%, but Casper's been in a downtrend now since 2024. And if you actually compare it to a lot of the other altcoins began dumping a few months ago, and they've dumped the same amount Casper's dumped in like 2 years. I got scared and sold my Bitcoin today. 73K holding. You've been holding for 8 years. AMC sold his Bitcoin today and got scared. He's been holding for 8 years. Wow. How come you sold today and you didn't sell when we lost the 50-week moving average? Anyway, I need to sort this this mouse out, so I'm just gonna get the wire for that, and then we'll continue the stream. 30 Grinder says shouldn't even be selling Bitcoin right now if you didn't already do it. Yeah. If you didn't already sell, I don't see the reason to be selling now. Like, I'm just getting ready to buy, you know? I'm getting ready to buy soon. Why would you be selling now? That's just retail capitulating, essentially. If you're about to sell now, you're basically just retail that capitulate near the bottom. And that's what we need, is that final, you know, 10, 20% instant dump. That's what's going to take us to a bottom. And that's what's going to take us to the 200-week moving average. We're just not there yet. Mike says, I joined Archie's VIP and watched for a while before acting on his calls to see if he was right or full of it. The kid is always spot on, so glad I joined. He's smarter than 99% of people in the space. Thank you, Mike. I'm not always right. But I'm right more than I'm wrong. But I appreciate the support. Yeah, Sui's almost coming back to our entry price, which was 76 cents. What's Sui at right now? Sui's at $1. You know, the funny thing is, if you bought Sui when I did, you would still be up right now, which is insane to think. Even though it's down 80%, you would still be up. It's down 80% from all-time highs. You'd still be in profits if you followed my alerts on Sui, if you're in the VIP. Global Investor says Archie is the real deal. Thank you. Been here since 2017. And just now, I was enlightened about ETH and BNB forming premature bottoms. Well, there you go. Even people who've been around for years may not have realized that or remembered that. But yeah, some of the alts can form bottoms months before Bitcoin. We've seen that before. So that could catch a lot of people off guard. A lot of people might be waiting for alts they might be waiting for Bitcoin to bottom before they buy alts. And that's why I'm suggesting to start DCAing in a little bit earlier than your bottom target, okay? Let's just say you think the bottom will be 50K. Start DCAing in at 65K. Because certain alts might actually have already bottomed out before Bitcoin does. Certain ones. So let me know which alts you guys are looking at right now to potentially buy into. I'm going to be giving a full list out to my VIP members by the end of this week. They're going to get a full guide, full document on all the altcoins I'm looking to buy, which is going to be a very handy document to have. But yeah, seems to me like Bitcoin's clearly lost that 74K support now. And we're basically just heading for the next major level, which to me is that 200-week moving average. Now, I want to just say, there is a chance we get a bit of a short-term bounce from 70K to 69K, because that is the 2021 all-time high. But usually what happens is Bitcoin will go lower than the previous high. Well, that's what happened last cycle. So it usually bottoms just a little bit lower than the previous high. So Bitcoin topped at, let's just call it 70K in 2021. Usually you go a little bit lower. So maybe the bottom is 60K. All right. That's all kind of lining up to me with the 200-week moving average. So I'm getting very, very close to buying. Not just there yet, but one more move down, guys. One more move down and I might start loading up again. Yes, maybe the bottom is lower than where I start buying, but you've got to also protect yourself the other way, which is if this thing is about to start making moves to the upside again, are you going to be left behind? And you don't want to be left behind. So, yeah, I'm going to start buying very soon, I believe. Casper's chart does look really good. I've got to be honest. I've been monitoring this wedge on the weekly. Man, that looks amazing. Look how many points of contact you've got. JPD says Potenza is looking like a buy. Let's take a look at Potenza Tau. Let me go on the regular chart and not the futures one. So Tau has, wow, it's come down a lot. It's come down even lower than my entry from when I first got into Tau, which was like 198. But look at Tau. It actually has quite a nice chart. Got to be honest about that. Quite a nice chart structure. And it's come down to the support range. So honestly, guys, like a lot of these alts are buys right now. I'm just saying this. Like looking at these charts, a lot of them are buys. And I feel like I need to start pulling the trigger very soon. But then it's like Bitcoin's still not at the 200 week yet. Like it's still a good $10,000 move plus away from it. So this is painful. This is giving me a headache. I can't sleep at night because I know that we're so close to potentially a lot of alts forming a bottom, in my belief anyway. Everyone thinks it has to be Q4. I'm not in that boat. I'm not in the boat of every alt has to bottom in Q4. Every alt didn't bottom in Q4 in 2022. So why is every alt going to bottom in Q4 this year? If every altcoin didn't bottom in Q4 in 2022, then why would it be the same this time? I just told you the two biggest altcoins, Ethereum and BNB, both bottomed out in June of 2022. And if you factor in some other things that are quite important context, such as the fact that we never had an altcoin blow off top this cycle, maybe the bear market's not going to be as deep if the bull run wasn't as high. Is that some form of a logical statement? Yes or no? Is that logical? To assume that because we didn't go as high as expected, we won't go as low as expected, is that logical? Because people tell me it's not. People tell me it is. I personally think it's logical. If you didn't have that parabola, then surely you're not going to have the absolute destructive bear market that usually happens. Maybe you do, but I would think more towards the fact that the bear market won't be as deep and long, because arguably we've already been in a bear market on alts for a long time. If you go and look at the others chart, others has been below its all-time high for years now, basically 5 years. 2021 was the last time others made a new all-time high. So it's a bit different if the backdrop is a major blow off top. If that's the context behind a bear market, it's a bit different because you can go a lot lower. If you've just had a blow off top, you can go a lot lower. But if you haven't had a blow off top, then I don't see Bitcoin going to 20K or 30K or some of these targets that people are giving. But time's going to tell, right? Where do I think the bottom on XPL is going to be? It's almost impossible to time the bottom on XPL. What I would say is just start DCAing in when you think Bitcoin's getting close to a bottom and you should be fine. But XPL is a high quality altcoin. It's just had disastrous price action. It's backed by Peter Thiel. Not saying I like the guy whatsoever, by the way, but he's certainly made a lot of money. He was behind PayPal, Palantir. Not saying for 1 second I admire the guy, but at the end of the day, you should follow the money, right, when it comes to crypto. Ricky says, just join the VIP, brother. I decided to join because you have been spot on, brother. And thank you for the discount code. May God send you many blessings, bro. Appreciate that. Really do appreciate that, Ricky. And it's good to have a very active viewer of the channel now in the Discord group. Really happy to see that. Yeah, I love it when the most active people in the YouTube comments join the group, because then they're super active in the group as well. They bring a lot to the group. Sui's the only altcoin you're interested in? Funny Frenzy. So Tau looks good. Casper looks good. I do want to build a long-term position in BNB, and it is coming back down to the 2021 highs. So BNB could be getting close to a bottom potentially as well. It's almost on those 2021 highs right now. And I just love the fear. Everyone else is super fearful right now, thinking it's doomsday. And I'm starting to get a little bit excited. I'm not getting out my bed fully for $73,000 Bitcoin, but I'm starting to slowly think about getting out of the bed for it, you know? We're getting close to that time where I need to get out of the bed. Best exchange to buy alts on, please. So obviously I'm going to recommend Blowfin, because that's the one that I predominantly use. There's a link down below where you can get rewards if you deposit USDT on it. But there's a bunch of exchanges, right? Primarily, I'd say Blowfin. MEXC is pretty good. If the pair isn't on Blowfin, then check MEXC. Kraken is good as well. So there's quite a few. Ricky says he can't see the buy and sell alerts. You got to make sure you've connected your WAP to Discord. Okay, everything's all within the Discord. So I put this poll out in my Discord last night just to gauge how many people actually sold. And I think some people just didn't answer because they're too ashamed of themselves. But 73% of my Discord group sold along with me. 27% decided to round trip, but the vast majority actually sold with me and thus protected their portfolios very, very nicely. Let me just see what the poll is right now. So there we go. So 7 out of 10 people sold in my Discord. Only 50% sold on YouTube. So if you guys were in my Discord, you would have had a higher chance of actually selling your portfolio and being able to buy back in now at half the price if you're actually in the group. Yes, you can short on Blowfin, you can long and short, and you can buy spot. There's a link down below to Blowfin. That's the exchange I'm using. Just hit that link, and if you deposit some USDT, I think you get some free rewards potentially. Also, this is something for you guys that I want to give you guys for free. 172 people watching. Go to the third link in the description. There's a thing here that says book a one-to-one call for free. Click on that, and that's going to bring you over to my WAP page. If you scroll to the bottom, there's a little section here that says book a call. If you book a call there, you're going to be able to essentially get on a one-to-one call with a member of staff of mine, my right-hand man, essentially, who I work with on a day-to-day basis. And you're going to be able to talk about the market with him, and he's going to put you on the right footing, help you out with setting up a portfolio to buy into when the time comes, and essentially an entry strategy, because I assume a lot of you guys are actually in stable coins and you're looking to buy into the market. So he'll help you out with an entry strategy. And for those of you who aren't in stable coins and you're currently holding a portfolio, he can help you improve that, get it right, make it align more with a portfolio, which I would personally be fond of. So that's something I'm giving you guys for free. And yeah, there's no catch to it, no hidden payment, nothing. It's all completely free. So I would take advantage of that opportunity if I was you. He's a very nice guy. Good sense of humor. He's Irish. So, you know, we love the Irish. Anyway, 73K Bitcoin on the dot. Looks like we're coming lower. When will I start buying is the question that plagues my mind and gives me sleepless nights. You know, I've slept really bad the last few nights. Usually I have great sleep. Like, I have one of those Whoop bands and I wore it for like 2 months straight. 100% sleep score every single day. But last couple days, it's been on my mind buying back into the market. It's been causing a lot of deep thought. I wouldn't say stress, but a lot of deep thought. It's hard for me to switch off because I'm constantly thinking about what price do I start buying back in at? And I don't want to be left behind. So, yeah, those are the problems of being in stablecoins, I guess. That's one of the things you guys in spot don't need to worry about because you've already allocated. But I guess you have other problems, right? You're probably down 70%. But yeah, that's the crypto bubbles on the day. Sea of red. We're getting close. We're getting close. Yeah, the Casper chart's in a giant falling wedge. You're absolutely right. It looks amazing. It's one of the nicest charts actually now. I remember when Casper used to look terrible, but it's becoming a really attractive chart to me. And the funny thing is, I got so much hate for selling Casper up at like 15 and 16 cents because like the guy behind, one of the main guys behind it was like tweeting all this political stuff. I got so much hate. I don't know if you guys remember. Like I was selling my Casper there and people were calling me an idiot. How nice it feels to be vindicated, you know? And look, I love Casper. I'm a huge fan of it. Like, I think it's great tech. I think it will make a comeback at some point. But, man, was I vindicated on that. Crazy. What do I think of Jasmy? I don't know about Jasmy. It looks all right, but I don't know if I buy the hype of it, like Japanese Bitcoin and all of that, but it might be okay. Yeah, you're right, global investor. Usually when alts form a low, they do hover around those prices for some time. It's not the case where they bottom and then the train absolutely leaves the station and you're left behind. That's not normally how it is. You do have weeks and months usually to accumulate. So you're absolutely right. Whenever alts do find a bottom, it's not going to be the case, I don't think, where they just have an instant V-shaped recovery like they did in April. What's probably going to happen is they're going to range for some months and you're going to have some really good time to accumulate back into the market. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up today's live stream. Appreciate all of you being here. Definitely get yourselves into the VIP group. And if you can't afford that, at least get on a one-to-one call for free with my right-hand man. All of those links are in the description. Check out Blowfin as well if you want to trade the crypto market or just buy alts. You can use it for spot as well. It's a non-KYC exchange, so you can use it in the US as long as you have a VPN on. So non-KYC means you don't have to put your passport in. But yeah, appreciate all of you watching, and I'll see you in tomorrow's